Okay, well, hello there. This is Andrea Ramirez, health coach and certified GAPS practitioner at truenourishment.com. And today I'm here with my dear client, Carolyn, whose story is super inspiring. And I asked her to share a little bit of it with you because she has experienced really wonderful, beautiful, and actually pretty fast healing. And so I want you to see what the possibilities are when you are just at a place where you can follow simple instructions. And so thank you, Carolyn, for helping me do this. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Great. So what were the challenges you were experiencing that made you look for my help?
I was experiencing lots of varied symptoms. The worst one was acid reflux. I would have problems with my eyes. They would get really blurry and red for no reason. I had an ongoing toothache. My ears would bother me. Except for the reflux, most of my symptoms were in my head for some reason, like my ears, my eyes. And I didn't realize it, but now that I've been working with you for a while, I was also experiencing a lot of physical anxiety.
Yes, physical anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so I want to highlight that these symptoms are sort of typical of the GAPS syndrome. I want to remind you, and you can read more about that in the website, but GAPS is essentially a digestive problem. And because it's digestive, you sort of feel it in your whole body. And so every person experiences it differently. For some people, there is obvious digestive stress that's sort of like impossible and really makes their lifestyle extremely hard. And for some others are things like these, mental, many times I see these that, in the form of anxiety, like Carolyn was saying, or very commonly depression. But it's usually like pains and aches here and there. Sometimes they are diagnosed, sometimes somebody will say, I have this specific autoimmune issue. And sometimes they're not. The person goes to the doctor and no doctor is ever able to tell them exactly what is it that they have. And in the meantime, you just feel that you're sick and you never feel well. So that's sort of a typical chart. So I know that you have been in a healing process for a period of time. So what made you sort of like decide to work with me right now, and also like work with me as opposed to work with somebody else? Even though we don't get to see each other face to face, we work distance via Skype.
The reason I chose to work with you was because I was using your website. I accidentally came across your website when I was looking for recipes for my grandson, who is a gluten-free child. So I happened to come across a recipe on your website, and I started using your website a lot. And I really liked the website, and my daughter started using your website, and we started cooking according to using a lot of recipes on the website.
And your daughter is a naturopathic doctor, right?
Yes, yes. And then I can't remember if I read it or I heard you speak on your website, but you had said that you could, with your help, that in the future my body would be telling me what it needs to eat.
Ooh. Carolyn? I lost you.
In the next few years, and I'm really working on making sure that I'm as healthy as I can be. So I thought, Well, I think I'm going to contact this woman and see what she can do for me. And that's how I found you.
Mm-hmm.
And after I hired you, I did find somebody in my area who does similar work, but I don't know, I just really liked using your website, and then once I met you, I really liked working with you, and I wanted to see what the possibilities of health were for me in terms of digestive health. Another thing I forgot to mention was that I was also experiencing a lot of forgetfulness.
Yes.
My memory was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't remember things.
Right.
So, but I did remember your website.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So, how have things changed since we started working together? And we started working together about 4 months ago, perhaps?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how have things changed?
Well, my diet has changed a lot. I thought I was eating really, really healthy. I've always been interested in healthy nutrition. And so my diet has changed, and the way I think about food and the way I perceive food has changed quite a bit. And I'm more motivated to try new things. I've been juicing quite a bit. So that in the last week I'm starting to juice a lot. But I think the biggest change is that I no longer take any supplements. I was on medication for years for acid reflux, and then I found that my stomach acid got so low that I'd have a meal and it would feel like my food was banging around in my stomach, and I'd be in so much pain. So I went from medication for acid reflux to using supplements for acid reflux. And since I've been working with you, I'm not taking anything for acid reflux.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. It says hi every now and then, but then it goes away right away.
Right.
So
and we're talking about how many years were you dealing with acid reflux?
Oh, at least 10 or 15.
Yeah.
A long time.
That's like so huge.
Yeah. I read an article in Prevention magazine last week where I work by Dr. Oz, saying that there are no nutritional strategies for managing acid reflux. And I was really tempted to write to him and say, well, maybe you should talk to Andrea.
Oh, wow, that's so incredible. I feel so humbled by your story, because it's just so amazing. Because, I mean, has this been easy?
I would say it has been challenging.
Right.
It has been challenging, and I'm slow. Andrea will ask me to do something, and it'll take me a week or two to wrap my head around it and then figure out how I'm going to do it. And certainly many of the recommendations that you've made, I haven't got to yet. It's just locating the resources.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's still doable.
It's absolutely doable.
Right.
Absolutely. I find that my routines have changed to, it used to be that food was just something I did. Now food is, I come home and I'm happy in my kitchen, spending time cooking for me, because I know it's not because I know that it helps, I'm just enjoying it more. I'm cooking differently, I'm enjoying it. It's absolutely doable.
Yes, it is
and
doable.
I'm exploring new foods. It's like all of a sudden I'm getting way more creative with food, and that's kind of exciting.
And if somebody would tell you, if you do these few things, or list of things, these are the kinds of results that you could get. I mean, is the cost benefit worth it?
Absolutely. One of the huge benefits that I've had is an enormously increased energy. I used to go to work and come home and drag myself around. Now, tonight I'm waiting to get off the computer so I can go do my workout. I have a lot. It took a while. It's taken a while, but right now.
But really, it hasn't. I mean, Carolyn, we're talking about 4 months. That's not really a long time. Well, might be feeling like a long time for you right now, but in terms of, if you think about how long were you sick, or getting to the point where you were desperate enough to look for my help, And what has happened since then, it really, 4 months is not a long time.
Okay. And my memory is great.
Yeah.
I'm not having memory problems.
Wow,
That's great.
That's
my eyes. I haven't thought about my eyes in 3 months.
Yes.
I haven't even thought about them. They have not bothered me at all. My tooth is. I was going to have it out. I continue to put off that appointment because I'm struggling with it less and less. It's bothering me less and less. My ears are fine. So many of the symptoms that I came to you with that just seemed to me to be all unrelated are gone. And I'm calmer. I'm way calmer. I didn't realize how anxious I used to be, but now I really notice I'm calm all the time. I'm managing my life way better.
Yes. So I wanna just do a little parenthesis to explain the tooth thing, because it might sound like, what does that have to do with anything? And so what's going on is Carolyn has a root canal, and root canals tend to become focus of infection in the body. And if you look for information, you'll see there is a lot of very contradictory information around root canals. I am not gonna get into, should you get a root canal or not. Sometimes it's the best option that you have around. I personally have a couple of root canals and have never had a lot of problem with them, because the infection, the body is designed to take a degree of infection and fight a degree of infection. But what happens is that when the immune system is weakened, then something like the infection that a root canal can cause really can overwhelm and make the whole body toxic. And so people will end up with things like pains in their upper back, or jaw pain, or an infection that actually eats up the bone in the jaw and becomes something horrible. All of these possibilities are there because the infection is initially localized, but it can very easily spread. So the reason why Carolyn hasn't had to go for the surgery to remove the canal and clean the infection, I mean, we talked about this, and we decided to wait because initially the infection is still contained and is under control. It doesn't need antibiotics, and with the help of the healing protocol, what's happening is the infection is, getting more control every time. And so what we are hoping, and we are in really good, track to that, is that perhaps it will just sort of phase away on its own. This is completely possible. It happens all the time. And so far it looks like that's what's going to happen to Carolyn. So, along all the sort of hassle that something like this can be for somebody, think about the huge financial benefit of not having to get additional dental work, which is so expensive. Well, you live in Canada, right? But in the States, this sort of thing is like huge stress in your pocket if you have to do treatment like this.
It is here too. Dental isn't covered under our Medicare.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay, yeah. So good for you then. Excellent. All right. How would you describe me as a health coach, Carolyn?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, you're always on time. I really appreciate that. And interesting. You're patient with me, and I know that I've gone over some questions over and over because I can't wrap my head around them, and you're very patient, and you've done your research, like you know what you're talking about all the time. You have research to back you up. I feel supported by your training and the research that backs up the answers that you give me. And you tell me where to find my resources and how to do things. And if I forget or I don't take the right notes, you're there by email. You always send me a copy of our sessions, so I have those available. You send me to websites where I can learn to cook differently or do different things. And I like you as a health coach. It's fun to work with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I actually think that I ask a lot, and I like, I push my clients because we're here for a reason. We want that healing to happen, and I push, but I try to push gently, and I try to push within the circumstances of the person. Again, even though you have a perception that it takes you a long time, you're actually very fast in implementing. I mean, it's so funny to see how perceptions change. But this sort of lifestyle change is not easy. And really the motivation is to feel better. And when you start to feel better, then that becomes the motivation, because it's like you have proof, like, oh my God, if I've done this little bit and I feel this much better, how else can I change things if I actually implement more of what Andrea is telling me, right? So that becomes the motivation. But like, you're actually implementing things super fast. Again, we're talking about 4 months. It's not a long time. And yeah, I ask a lot from my clients. I totally put I have the confidence that they can take that, because when I start working with somebody, I do an initial talk with them, and I sort of to determine if they are in the right place to do this work or not. And if they are, magic will happen, just like it's happening with you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So how do you think things would be different if you were doing this by yourself?
Well, I've
I mean, you have actually, right? You have done things by yourself.
I think it's always easier to get the external motivation from working with someone, from talking with someone. It would be different in that I would have so many questions, and it's that feeling supported, like you've given me the written material to do the work. You've made those suggestions, and I've taken those suggestions. But knowing that, when you just work with a book, it's really impersonal, and you don't have the support to make. I mean, I've made huge changes in the way my life operates, in the way I eat, in the way I shop for my groceries, and there have been really big changes, and to know, it's just nice to have that support at my back, have a person. It's like you have my back. You know what I mean?
I do.
And I can just know that you're there if I have a question, or it's somebody having my back makes a real difference, because you can read a book. I've read a zillion books, that advocate a lot of stuff, but they go back to the library. But every couple of weeks I talk to you, and it really helps.
Yes.
It just really helps. The encouragement helps. The advice helps. The suggestions help. It just helps.
Yes. Yes.
Helps me stay focused.
Yes.
And then I get excited because I go, oh, I'm going to talk to Andrea in a few days, and so I got to tell her about this, and I got to tell her about that, and hey, wait a minute, I haven't experienced that for a long time. So it's sharing the journey with somebody too, because nobody I know wants to be on this journey, but everybody's noticing. People are commenting a lot on that my skin is looking better, and I have more energy, and I'm way more positive, and I'm handling more. So people are noticing a difference. But when I talk about what I'm doing, people go, oh, that's really nice. And I think the benefit is because I have you to work with.
Yes.
You know, other people don't.
Yes. So specifically with the protocol that I use extensively, which is the GAPS healing protocol, and it's not the only thing I use. Of course, you know, I've been a coach for 6 years already, but specifically with GAPS, because the book by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride is so detailed, a lot of people take upon the protocol on their own, and that's totally, you know, that's wonderful. You know, it's a book that has helped so many people. But Natasha in training, or Dr. Natasha in training, was commenting on how the need of the practitioner is huge, because all of these questions arise, and sometimes people just feel like, you know, the book just goes so far, even though it gives such specific explanations. Like, people really wish they could have a resource that, you know, where they can find lots of their questions resolved. And depending on the gravity of the issue that we're talking about, I might have the answer or not, but most times than not, I do, because I've seen this with many people already. And so it really does make a difference, even for the people who like to take things on their own. Yes. So I want to ask you, what would you say to someone who is considering working with me now, but they feel like, oh, I don't know, you know, they're on, like, on the verge? What could you tell to them to help them make a good decision?
I would tell them that working with you is potentially life-changing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good, and I received that humbly. And also, I want to say, sometimes to people that's scary. Like, oh my goodness, life-changing sounds so big.
Yes, yes, life-changing, body-changing, and that, you know, I talk to so many people now about the gut-brain connection, and they're everyone. I have people phoning me now and going, what does Andrea say about this? What does Andrea say about that? So, you know, and I'm talking to people about the GAPS diet, and I'm talking to them about Andrea and saying, you know, go to truenourishment.com, try some of Andrea's recipes, listen to some of the things she has to say, and then and think about working with her, because she's amazing. Like, I'm recommending that my son contact you. He's very interested. I've talked to my sister. Like, lots of people are very interested.
Yeah.
So I would say work with her.
Yeah.
It's well worth it.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so great. I'm just so, again, I'm so humbled to be working with, you're such a good client, Carolyn. Like, you do the things and you just, like, fly through the stuff, even though you feel like you're slow and I have to repeat a lot. That's your perception, and it's not true. And I'm just delighted to see how this was so the right time for you, because your body is taking upon this approach so beautifully, and it's rebuilding itself so quickly. It's just amazing to see.
It's amazing to feel it too. It's amazing to feel consistently, day to day, so healthy.
Yeah.
And I don't think I realized how unhealthy I felt. You know, it's just day to day, and that's the way reality is. But to feel this healthy day to day is an absolutely amazing feeling. You can't explain the changes that are, you know, in your body, and the strength and how healthy. You can't explain that feeling to somebody, but I can tell you that I just, life is different for me now.
Yeah.
It really is.
That's great. That's wonderful. All right, Carolyn, thank you so much for your time and for being willing to share your story. I think it's going to be very inspiring to many people. I know it is inspiring to me. And as for us, I will talk to you next week.
Okay, I look forward to it.
Okay, bye.
Take
Good
care.
night.
Bye.